Every grower out there dreams of their strain blowing up. Fame means demand, demand means money, and one hot name can flip your whole life. But there's a dark side to that dream nobody really warns you about. Because a strain can actually get too famous. This is the story of Pink Runtz. So the first thing you've got to understand is that Pink Runtz is really just one branch of a much bigger tree. To truly get it, you have to start with the original Runtz. And that story kicks off in the Los Angeles scene of the late 2010s, with three guys who each brought something totally different to the table. First, there was a grower named Nick Corwin, who was quietly running some of the rarest indoor Zkittlez in all of California. Then there was a strategist named Ray Bama, who was plugged deep into the cookies world through Burner, the man behind Girl Scout cookies. And finally, there was a Long Beach rapper named Young LB, who ran all the marketing and came up with the crew's whole slogan, Runtz Yo Life Up. And together, those three created something special. They crossed that rare Zkittlez with another legend called Gelato number 33. And the gelato side came straight from Jigga, the cookies co-founder who bred gelato in the first place. Out of those seeds, two standout plants became the foundation of everything that followed. And the name was a clever little play on Runtz, the fruit-shaped candy, just spelled with a Z, because the smell coming off this plant was pure candy shop. Now the launch itself is already the stuff of legend. Because in December of 2017, the crew pulled up to a big cannabis event in Santa Rosa with just a few pounds of flour, about 1,000 t-shirts, and some models, and they set up camp right next to the cookies booth. The story goes that they sold around 5 pounds of it in under 10 minutes, and Burner took notice immediately. Cookies added Runtz to its lineup in 2018, and Burner reportedly bought half the brand, which plugged Runtz into nationwide distribution basically overnight. And from there, it was a straight-up rocket ship. In 2019, a Runtz grown by a farm called Ridgeline took first place for sun-grown flower at the Emerald Cup. Then, in 2020, Leafly crowned Runtz its strain of the year, with their top critic describing it as purple instead of green, riotously fruity, syrupy, and gassy, and calling these strains multi-billion-dollar pieces of intellectual property. And once the original blew up, the whole family exploded right behind it. You got white Runtz, black Runtz, purple Runtz, rainbow Runtz, banana Runtz, until there were something like 3 dozen different Runtz varieties floating around out there. And the prettiest, sweetest one of the whole entire bunch was Pink Runtz. So let's talk about what Pink Runtz actually is, because it's basically the showpiece of the family. The buds are dense and spade-shaped, running from a minty green into deep purple with real pink tones in them, wrapped in thin orange hairs and absolutely caked in frost, the kind of flower that photographs like actual candy. And the flavor completely matches that look. It's widely called the sweetest of all the Runtz, all sugary fruit and cherry berry with a sour candy edge. It smokes like a balanced hybrid, right around 50-50, hitting you first with a fast, giggly, euphoric lift in the head before it melts down into a relaxed, tingly calm in the body. It's social, and it's smooth. And when it comes to strength, that's where I've got to be honest with you. Because most sources put it around 23 to 25% THC. But those numbers mostly come from dispensary pages, and real batches swing anywhere from the high teens on up. So treat that as a ballpark, and definitely not a promise. But honestly, the potency was never really the point with Pink Runtz. The look and the flavor and the name were always the main event. Now this is where I've got to be really straight with you, because the genetics of Pink Runtz are genuinely up for debate. The honest truth is that nobody fully agrees on what it even is, and there are 3 competing stories. The most common one says Pink Runtz is just a pink-expressing version of the original Runtz, the same Zkittlez and Gelato parents, only flashier, and that's how Leafly lists it and how Cookies sells it. The most specific one comes from a seed company called Copycat Genetics, which says it deliberately made its Pink Runtz by crossing a pink panties plant with a reversed Runtz. And the most repeated one, the one plastered across dispensary menus everywhere, claims it's pink panties crossed with rainbow sherbet, which really seems to be folklore that just got repeated so many times it hardened into fact. So which one of those is actually true? Well, the honest answer is, nobody can really prove any of them. And there's a very real reason why. Because the original Runtz crew never officially released their seeds or their clones. So there's no authoritative mother plant anywhere to compare anything against. And a bunch of different companies just put out their own version of Pink Runtz. And that gap, that missing original, is the exact crack that every single fake in this story pours right through. Even the famous pink color is partly just environmental, since cool nights during flowering are what pump up the pigments that turn buds pink and purple. So the real truth is, Pink Runtz is less one verified cross, and more of a look and a flavor wearing a very famous name. So through the early 2020s, that famous name was absolutely printing money. There are photos from the summer of 2020 showing a multi-million-dollar field of white Runtz and pink Runtz finishing up at Ridgeline Farms. Young LB built the brand's Instagram into a full-on hype machine and openly compared Runtz to Supreme, like a designer label for weed. And hip-hop adopted it completely, with the Runtz name worked into well over 100 different songs by huge artists like Moneybagg Yo, Lil Uzi Vert, Lil Baby, Gunna, and Lil Durk. And Pink Runtz rode that entire wave as the fan-favorite exotic, sitting up on top shelves and rarely selling for under $50 an eighth. And that right there, all that heat sitting on top of a very limited real supply, is exactly what created the monster. Because the demand for Runtz grew way faster than a handful of boutique growers could ever hope to keep up with. And the illicit market solved that problem the easy way. They just faked it. And the way they did it is almost insulting. It's so simple. Empty branded Mylar bags that said Runtz, White Runtz, and Pink Runtz could be ordered online for around 20 cents a piece. And anybody with a home printer, some vinyl, and Photoshop could knock out convincing fake packaging in a couple of hours. You fill those bags with literally any weed you want, and suddenly it sells for exotic prices. And the co-founder himself admitted just how bad it got. Because Ray Bama put it about as bluntly as it gets. He said that if you buy 10 eighths from any dispensary or 10 off the street, 9 of them are going to be Runtz. He called it the most renamed strain and the most bootlegged, and he admitted the crew was basically powerless to stop it, as ugly knockoffs of their own bags showed up in smoke shops all across America and Europe. It got so completely out of hand that some critics even argued the colored Runtz variants were invented by the packaging printers before real versions even existed. Now that part goes a bit too far in my opinion, since Cookies does sell white and pink Runtz, but it tells you just how completely the name had broken loose from the actual plant. Asking somebody if they were even smoking real Runtz literally became a running joke. So the fight to take that name back ended up happening on 3 completely different fronts. The first front was the crew themselves, who decided to just out-innovate the bootleggers instead of chasing them around. They constantly dropped new products, wild limited runs like Obama Runtz and die-cut collab bags, and they even built their whole operation into the Jokes Up brand. The idea was simple: move so fast that the fakes can never catch up. But the second front is where that old candy name finally came back around. Because Cookies first locked down an official Runtz trademark, and a legit Runtz brand finally emerged around December of 2020. But then, in October of 2024, Ferrara, the candy company that actually makes Runtz, filed a federal lawsuit against the owners of the Runtz cannabis trademark. They said the weed brand had admitted to trading on the candy's name and had even expanded into stuff like Chili Wonka products after getting multiple cease and desist letters. And that case is still grinding through the courts as of this year. It's honestly the same kind of pressure that once forced Zkittlez to rebrand into the original Z after the Skittles lawsuit. And then to make things worse, the government itself jumped in as the third and final front. Because in August of 2024, California's Cannabis Task Force raided 11 storefronts in the downtown LA toy district and seized nearly 2.3 million contraband packages. A lot of it was candy-mimicking bags carrying forged state seals. And in a fitting touch, they literally named the whole operation Operation Grab Bag. So at the end of the day, Pink Runtz is the cautionary tale hiding inside the prettiest bag on the shelf. It's a strain with 3 origin stories and no real birth certificate. The flashiest child of a family that genuinely changed weed forever, turning strains into designer brands with candy names and hip-hop anthems. And the exact same hype that built it all up is what the counterfeiters came along and harvested. Until eventually, real Pink Runtz became the single, rarest thing about Pink Runtz. The genetics survived, and the brand survived, and it still sits on top shelves today. But its real legacy is the lesson. In modern weed, the name on the bag can genuinely be worth more than the actual flower inside it, and that's the exact reason you can't ever fully trust the bag.